Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Calling All Creatures. I am your host, Lori, and tonight I have a really interesting update podcast. I don't know if any of you guys remember or listened to my podcast for Joey's Legacy with Scott Fine, the founder, but he's back on tonight, and we're going to do an update on how things have been going for him with his organization, Joey's Legacy, and some of the new stuff that they've been incorporating, and maybe hear a tale or two about how they've helped out some of these people. So anyway, Scott, thank you so much for being on the podcast tonight. I really appreciate you coming back and doing this update with us.
My pleasure, Lori. I appreciate the opportunity to provide the updates from our group and what we've been doing over the past 8 years.
Yeah, because you guys have done some pretty amazing work out there with helping people. And it's in a category I don't think that a lot of people actually think about or think that there's much that they can do about, but in reality there is. But why don't you go ahead and just kind of remind us of what Joey's Legacy is and why you started the foundation?
Okay, sure. So Joey's Legacy is a 501c3 nonprofit organization formed in late 2017 or early 2018 after the death of my dachshund Joey in Fort Myers, Florida, as a result of substandard care provided by a veterinarian. So what happened was Joey was given an injection of an antibiotic that at the time the veterinarian wasn't aware was contraindicated for Joey's condition. And unfortunately, 2 days later, Joey was unable to breathe on his own, and we had to euthanize Joey, unfortunately. At that point, I started to wonder, is it just me, or are there other people that this affects? And lo and behold, I started our Facebook group, which is Joey's Legacy Vet Mal Victims, and the website joeyslegacy.org. And before we knew it, we had dozens of people coming to us, and our Facebook group has over 5,000 people today. Of course, not all of them are victims of veterinary malpractice, but many of them are, and we've been able to help a lot of them seek justice and accountability from the practitioners that were responsible.
Right. So what is it that Joey's Legacy actually does to assist people that suspect veterinary malpractice with their pets?
Sure. So someone will come to us, they'll call me, and they'll say, okay, I just took my dog to the vet for a spay surgery, and I took my dog home, and 2 days later I found my dog deceased under my bed. And this is a true story. So what ended up happening, an necropsy was performed, which of course is an autopsy on an animal. Mm-hmm. And the pathologist in that case determined that when the veterinarian actually was performing spay surgery, he failed to ligate or tie off blood vessels properly, and the dog was bleeding internally for 2 days, and they finally passed away.
Oh my God.
The person filled out our victim form, told us exactly what happened, provided medical records, and we normally send that information to our vet team for review. It takes them about a week, sometimes a little less. They'll come back with their findings and whether or not they determine that there was any substandard care that was provided, and they'll let the pet parent know. And that service initially is free of cost to the pet parent. So in other words, the pet parent can find out from our vet team what they think about the case at no cost. At that point, they can decide to either stop, or if they want to move forward and seek damages against the veterinary practice and the veterinarian, then we can help them along with that process as well.
Yeah, and that's a good a good service, to offer people, because, and you went through it, yourself, and that, here you think your pet's going to be all right, and then all of a sudden it's not all right, and so you're getting hit with the suddenness and the trauma of that, and losing your pet on top of it, and then trying to think through what steps you need to do to
exactly
take care of this and figure out what happened. So yeah, a lot of people don't think about that because they're already so traumatized from losing their pet when they weren't expecting it.
Very true.
Yeah.
True.
So when I was looking through some of your stuff, and from talking with you before, there's like an important thing that people should do before they actually contact you. It's kind of an important first step. Could you tell us a little bit more about what people should kind of do before they get in contact with you?
Sure, absolutely. The most important thing initially is to obtain the medical records from any and all of the veterinary hospitals that were part of the treatment plan. Sometimes it's just one. Sometimes there's the initial veterinary hospital, and then the pet parent has to take the companion animal to an emergency facility for follow-up care. But obtaining records from all hospitals is paramount in our ability to review and determine substandard care. So once everyone has medical records, once someone has medical records from everybody, then they send them through our website, fill out a form, let us know what happened in detail, who they feel the practitioner was that provided the substandard care, and why. Our vet team will review, and then, as mentioned before, they'll send an email back to the pet parent with their findings, and then pet parent can decide what they want to do from there. But gathering the records is number one.
Right. And that, that's a good thing anyway. And I actually was talking with a gentleman from an emergency vet clinic, and, he even recommends the same thing. If you have to bring your pet from your regular vet to an emergency clinic, make sure you gather up those records or any other medical records or medicines and stuff like that you may have before you have to run to that emergency clinic, because they're going to need it, because a lot of times, things can't get faxed. So for whatever reason, I've heard, just in the regular human medical profession, someone was saying they couldn't get their records faxed over from one place to another because it wasn't the same system or something like that. It was So it's an important thing all the way around when you're dealing with something with your pet in an emergency, or with something, unfortunately, like this as well. So.
Yes, correct. Absolutely.
Now, you were talking about, of course, the vets review the case and stuff like that. Could you kind of walk us through what happens during the review process? And I'm going to throw it out because you're going to explain it, but could you also explain what a certificate of merit is and why that's an important thing to have?
So when the information, the victim form from the pet parent and the records are sent to the vet team, the first thing they'll do is review the victim form and try to learn as much as they can from the pet parent about what really happened and where the pet parent sees the substandard care. They'll review the medical records to validate that or refute it. And like I said, about a week later, they'll send an email back to the pet parent with their findings. It's a fairly streamlined review process. I can tell you that most pet parents have pretty keen instincts regarding whether or not something actually went wrong at the vet. So more than half of the inquiries we receive are validated as substandard care by our vet team. There are, of course, cases where the vet team will come back and say, we think that the veterinarian in this case did everything right. Procedures, proper protocols were followed, procedures were followed according to AVMA standards and other standards, and they'll come back and say, we don't see anything here in terms of substandard care. And basically the pet parent gets a free opinion initially, and they can determine what their next move is. They could opt for another second veterinarian on our team to review and see if they have a different opinion. That sometimes is requested, most of the time not. And I guess let me, at this point, Lori, disclaim the fact that I'm not a veterinarian, I'm not an attorney.
Right.
But I've been doing this since Joey died 8 years ago, and I've got tons of anecdotal information from people that we've worked with.
Right, and I was going to actually say, that, you have gone through this yourself. It's personal experience, stuff like that. And also, throw out there real quick, this isn't a podcast to bash any veterinarians either. It's just one to get the information out there and let people know that this does happen just like it happens in the human world. I mean, it shouldn't be that much of a thing, but it is. And just so people know that there's this resource out there that they can turn to if something like that does happen. But, this isn't all vets. This is only a few bad apples in there that, So, we're not bashing vets.
Exactly, and that's my next comment. It is my opinion, has been since the day Joey died, that the vast majority of veterinarians are caring, compassionate people that entered the profession for the right reason, because they have a true, profound love for animals. And the veterinarians that are brought to our attention are a teeny tiny percentage of the entire profession. So by no means is this anything involving vet bashing. Right. In fact, veterinarians come to us that hear about us that have that same opinion, that they know there's a few bad apples, but every profession obviously has a few bad apples. In this case, it can lead to permanent injury or death. So these veterinarians that come to us and hear about us and want to participate in what we do are willing enough to step outside of their comfort zone and call out the bad actors. And so, I know there are people out there, especially in my Facebook group, that will disagree with me in terms of a lot of them think because it happened to them, all vets are bad. I strongly disagree, and I know a lot of people also strongly disagree, that they realize that the vast majority of vets do a great job. Yeah,
I agree. I think the vast majority do. So, it was important to put that out there. I didn't mean to interrupt what you were talking about there, and I want to next talk with you a little bit more about the vets and the law firms and stuff you have partnering with you. But go ahead and continue what we were talking about before we kind of went off there.
You had mentioned, no, that's fine. You had mentioned certificate of merit. And,
right.
Again, I'm not an attorney, but what I'm understanding is that some states require, if you do file a court case, some states require an affidavit of merit, certificate of merit, to be attached. It's a statement from someone with qualifications that has reviewed the case and determined that, yes, this case has merit. There is substandard care occurred in this case. So it kind of validates the case for the court, or at least this person's opinion. There are states that don't require that, is my understanding. So in terms of certificate of merit, affidavit of merit, I believe, or it's my understanding, that it's essentially the same thing.
Okay. And kind of varies depending on the state.
That's my understanding. Yeah. I try not to. I'm not a lawyer, not a vet. I try to stay away from really detailed explanations of definitions for each industry. But I've learned what I've learned over the years from veterinarians and some of the attorneys that we do work with.
Right. Yeah. I mean, you do.
Yeah.
that's every profession. When you're working, you do pick things up. Same with me when I did animal control. I worked with the deputies and police officers, so I picked up law enforcement, things too. So, yeah. But again, I wasn't a law enforcement officer, so. But yeah, I understand.
Right.
Okay, so in talking, you were saying about, how you do have veterinarians that are coming to you kind of, looking to maybe partner up with you and stuff like that. And I was going to ask how you found your veterinarians and law firms, but on top of finding them or having them come and talk with you about partnering up, now how do you make sure that these veterinarians and, say, attorneys are, qualified and upstanding to kind of pass opinion on these other veterinarians and stuff like that? And then if they are partnering with you, do they offer their services at any type of a reduced fee, or is it just the regular fees, or does it just vary and people will have to check?
So we do a fairly stringent vetting process with veterinarians. We do background checks, we do criminal history checks, we do disciplinary checks, and if they've been veterinarian for at least 5 years with no disciplinary history, and we feel they'd be a good fit, we ask them to join us, and we obviously monitor their work initially to make sure they fit our standards, and that's pretty much how we vet our veterinarians, so to speak. And attorneys, basically the same thing. We check disciplinary history and anything we can find out about them, and so that's how that all goes. I mean, in terms of reduced fees, our veterinarians definitely, they all are in private practice. I presume they make a relatively comfortable living, so this is not what we do. Is not anything they rely on to survive.
Right.
They're actually doing it for just because they appreciate the mission that we're on to try to hold the bad actors accountable,
right,
if and when necessary. And so they're willing to step outside their comfort zone to help us, with that. Attorneys, my understanding from some people is, yes, they work on a reduced hourly fee. I'm not aware of any of the attorneys that work, pro bono or even on a contingency basis. And a lot of attorneys actually shy away from these cases. Primarily, my understanding is because economically it's not feasible. Most of these cases are just about a recovery of what's called economic damages, basically recovery of all vet bills, recovery of a cost of a same breed animal if the pet parent, if the animal passed, and in some cases if the pet animal is permanently injured, insurance company will pay a sum of money if the pet parent was to go obtain a same breed animal today. Cost of cremation, if there was a necropsy, cost of necropsy. And my understanding is the cost of our opinion letter from our vet team is normally part of the settlement process. So it's basically all the economic damages, in other words, all the money that people spend out of pocket to get to the final step. I know that some people ask for lost wages, and a few have tried to ask for emotional distress, which is typically not awarded in these types of cases because in almost every state in the United States, animals are considered personal property, and so it's not like human medical malpractice where there's room for loss of companionship, pain and suffering, emotional distress. That in most of these vet mal cases, that doesn't apply. Now, I know things are changing. California, I understand, in a few cases, a couple of our people that came to us that took their case to settlement in California with the insurance company or the court. They were awarded a nominal amount of non-economic damages, which would be the emotional distress. I believe Oregon is the same, and I think there was a case in Tennessee where there's actually a cap on emotional distress for $5,000 that one of our pet parents was awarded. So things are changing slowly. It's a lot different than it was 8 years ago, and I'm just very grateful to see some of these positive changes so that the landscape for veterinary justice can improve and continue to improve.
Right. Yeah. I mean, that's what I'm saying. It's so great to be able to get the information out there, to people that, can truly use it and need it because of something like this that has happened. So, it's great that the word is spreading so that more and more people know because, you really do need to,
Yes.
Stop that kind of stuff from happening so, other people don't have to, suffer through it as well.
Yes. So, I'm very happy with the progress we've made, but we still got a long way to go.
Right, exactly. One of the new things that I had saw when I was looking at your website was you are now offering like grief and trauma support. So can you tell us a little bit more about that?
We have a couple of members of our Facebook group that have actually began or actually completed by now a course of for grief and trauma counseling, a formal course. And they are available for anyone who has suffered the loss of a family member and is having a hard time coping with it. And their service is free. All they would have to do would be join our Facebook group, which is, again, is Joe's Legacy Vet Mal Victims, and post that they're in need of assistance, and the one of the grief support people would contact them privately and hopefully offer some assistance in that area.
Yeah. That's great. I mean, that's just great that you're able to offer that kind of support for people. Because, that's another thing. Even people that have pets, I don't think sometimes think about when you lose them, how much grief you go through, and having that kind of support, is so helpful to a lot of people to help them get them through that. That's a great service to be offered out. So it's nice of those people to offer that, for free and things like that to help others out. So,
it's really much needed, and everybody has their own experiences, their own level of grief and how they deal with grief. I know when my parents died many years ago, there's a certain amount of grief involved there, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
When Joey died, it was a whole different experience for me. The grief seemed a little more intense.
Mm-hmm.
We get unconditional love from our companion animal family members, and the other factor involved in what we do is that there was a betrayal of trust by the veterinarian, and as a result, we have end up with permanently injured or deceased family members, and that takes a whole different toll on you than a natural death.
Right.
Without the extra the betrayal of trust involved and that kind of thing. So, let's see, in June will be 8 years.
Yeah.
Since Joey passed, and it's obviously you find a way to deal with it as time goes on, but it never goes away.
No.
Completely.
No, it doesn't. I mean, that's why when I was saying earlier, that unexpected, because you really don't expect that to happen. You were just at the vet, or even if something happens while you're still at the vet and you lose your pet. I mean, you thought you were doing this great thing. I take my dog in, I take care of them, I make sure they're in good health, I get them their vaccinations, I do all this stuff. or I'm getting them fixed so they can't reproduce, in that case, and then the next thing you know, you've lost your pet, and you're kind of, like you said, it's a much more intense grief because it's so unexpected. I mean, if you lose a family member, say in a car accident, that's very unexpected. I mean, yes, that's intense as well, but like you said, this is a member that's given you such unconditional love through its life, and then something like that. And if it happens when they're younger, it's so unfair because they lost how much of their life they didn't get to live. And
that's right.
It is hard. I understand completely, because when I lost my little girl Saya a few years ago, I mean, and the vet didn't do anything wrong or anything in that case. It was just it was cancer and what she had, and it exploded. She was bleeding internally, exploded and stuff, and there was nothing they could do. They tried, but anyway, I went in not even thinking or expecting. The next time, no, I don't have my dog anymore. So it's like, it's so unexpected and traumatizing. It's hard to get through it. Something. Yeah.
Yeah. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh, I was just going to continue on with just another new thing that I had saw out there on your website was the Nebulous Foundation. That was kind of cool. Can you explain what the foundation is doing to help out your mission?
Yeah, sure. So back in 2022, a Minnesota family came to us with a really bad story about another spay that went bad. Their kitten, whose name's Nebula, was a victim of a botched spay surgery. She was very, very young, and we assisted them in the process of seeking damages from the veterinarian. So what they've done is they were successful in obtaining damages, and they deposited a sum of money into a foundation that they formed called Nebulous Foundation. And what we do is, or what they wanted was that money to be used for people that come to us that have a case of substandard care by a veterinarian, but they can't afford the cost of an opinion letter from our vet team. And so what they do is they apply for grant money from the foundation. It's based on family size and income, and the foundation provides grants up to $650, which of course is used to reduce the cost of the base cost of the opinion letter, which is $995. And so those that are eligible are able to seek justice and accountability with the assistance of the foundation's grants. So we're very grateful to this family for being willing to pay it forward, so to speak. And Nebulous Foundation has already helped at least a dozen, maybe 24 people. It was just added this year. It was just formed this year, I should say, early January, February. And since then, it's helped a lot of people. So we're very grateful to the family in this case.
That's amazing. That is so amazing to hear a story like that family was willing to do that. That's just great. Something that we all need, I think, in this day and age right now.
Yeah, we really do. I mean, all the help we can get is very appreciated. So, and of course, as donations come in, they will continue to help future victims, because unfortunately, veterinary malpractice is there on a regular basis, and unfortunately may never really cease to exist. So we will continue to do what we do as long as we can.
Right. And that's good. Then I was just going to ask, if you guys, with donations and stuff you get, if you're going to keep giving that program and paying it forward. So that's great that you put that out there. So, and and then about the veterinary malpractice, I was actually just going to ask you that too. So now that you've been doing this for, about 8 years, have you, and again, not trying to bash us, but have you found that there's a little bit more veterinarian malpractice out there than you originally thought? Or do you think it's kind of, obviously it's still a small percent, but did it kind of hit home now after this amount of time that, oh my gosh, there's a little bit more out there than we really kind of expected or thought there would be? Or is it about kind of what you may have thought was going on?
No, that's pretty subjective. I'm not sure exactly how to answer that. I can tell you that we have helped probably many hundreds, maybe a few thousand people after 8 years. Are there more people out there right now that have had bad experiences that have resulted in permanent injury or death of their companion animals? Yes. Will they ever find us or learn about us? Maybe. But I don't think the frequency is increasing or anything. I think, I believe, my sense is it is what it is. It's just a matter of, it's kind of like a human being with a certain medical condition or disease that's looking for a specific doctor to help them, and will they ever be able to find that doctor? And that's kind of the same thing here. Will they ever be able to find us? Now, I know people have been recommended to us that came from Reddit, TikTok, Google, lots of social media places. So people that hear about us do talk about us, and other people hear about us through them and are able to find us, I guess is the best way to say it.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just a matter of time, and I don't know how much time, obviously, but our name and our brand is out there, and it's expanding and increasing. In fact, we have a team of veterinarians that include American veterinarians, European veterinarians, and Canadian veterinarians. And we help people in all 50 states, and we're currently helping someone in the United Kingdom and someone else in South Korea. So
wow.
Our name has spread worldwide. Yeah, absolutely. So I expect that expansion to continue as time passes.
That's amazing. I was going to ask you how much you've been able to expand your network, if it was just certain areas, if you're across the U.S., but wow, you've even gone internationally to a couple different countries now as
absolutely.
Well. That is...
And we've helped people in Australia as well, yeah.
Oh my gosh, that is amazing. That is so awesome that the word has spread.
It really is.
Yeah.
Yes.
Wow.
Absolutely. Yeah.
That is so cool.
So,
yeah, well, and
we're very blessed.
Maybe if people are listening to this, I do have listeners from many different countries, so maybe we'll get the word out a little bit more if they decide to listen to this podcast and learn more about you. So you never know. Yes. You might get a few more from other countries.
We're here to help, for sure.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
That is really cool. I had no idea that you guys had actually been able to make it internationally. That's really awesome. So.
Yes.
So we have talked just a little bit about some of the outcomes roundabout that some of the people have had that have come to you over the last few years for help. So you had mentioned, like I guess they've gotten some of their vet bills recouped, things along those lines. Like you said, some people, depending on where they're at, what states and stuff, have gotten the awards for the emotional distress and things like that. Have you happened to have heard what has happened to maybe some of these veterinarians that were involved? I mean, did they have their licenses revoked, or are they still allowed to practice? Did something just get wrote up on them? Do you know anything about what may have happened in those cases?
Well, this is one of my subjects that I could really go off on a rant, but I won't. courts of veterinary medicine exist in all 50 states, and they tend to, quite honestly, protect their own when it comes to these kinds of things. So unless there's a major repeat offender or the case is especially egregious, normally the disciplinary action is slap on the wrist, so to speak. A public reprimand, which really is meaningless, maybe some continuing education hours, which is more of a pain in the butt for the veterinarian than anything else. There's normally nothing imposed in terms of disciplinary action in most cases that will make an impact on the veterinarian and try to deter future conduct, similar conduct. In Joey's case, the veterinarian was disciplined twice for 2 other cases in the past, in the 5 years previous to Joey's case. And while they did find substandard care in Joey's case, they no sooner charged him with that, and they dismissed those charges.
Oh, wow.
So it's kind of like, well, why even bother? But, vet boards are typically not, they typically tend to protect their own, so to speak. And so, therefore, there's no real deterrent to future unfavorable conduct, so to speak.
Wow.
As far as how these cases resolve, majority of these cases do resolve with a negotiated settlement between the bad actors insurance company and the family, the pet parent. Very, very few cases that we're aware of, percentage-wise, of course, go to court. And in my opinion, that's a good thing, because when you go to court with any case, whether it's a car accident or any type of civil matter, you bring in additional risk. Is the judge going to get it right? Is the jury going to get it right? How much additional cost is there going to be? Do you hire an attorney, or do you try to do it pro se by yourself? So there's a lot more to consider, and that's why most people do accept the settlement offer. Eventually, it's always a negotiated back and forth, but most people do accept the settlement offer from the insurance company. And to answer your question more directly, as many people know, the family is required to sign a non-disclosure agreement. So they'll accept the settlement from the insurance company, but they're forbidden from discussing the matter or the terms of the settlement, or not allowed to post anything disparaging about the veterinarian in social media or in a public forum. And so, consequently, only a small percentage of people that actually settle out of court come back to us and tell us what happened. They're willing to bend the rules, so to speak, but they wanted to let us know that they were successful and appreciative of what we've done for them. But most people do not, and we make the presumption that they are abiding by the non-disclosure agreement.
Right. Well, you got to sign that stuff to say you ain't going to say anything bad or let the word get out about that veterinarian, because God forbid, they should be held accountable for what they have done and let anybody know about it, Yeah, I understand. Believe me. Ridiculous.
So this quote unquote veterinary justice system is in my opinion broken and corrupt, and needs a lot of change. Whether that'll ever happen in our lifetimes, I certainly hope so. But there's only been a tiny bit of progress in 8 years that I can tell.
Right, exactly. And that's the sad part, because, and it's not just the veterinarian profession. There's a lot of different professions out there that are broken and need help and be fixed. But
that's true.
But, true. They definitely, it's sad that, like I said, they protect their own. Nothing happens to this person that caused this damage to happen. Even if it's, like you said with the vet in your case, a couple times. And then when you do, like, go to court, not go to court, but get into this then you get the settlement and an NDA, so no one can find out about what happened because you can't talk about it. So yeah,
exactly.
This is just the good, and I hate to say it this way, but good old boy society. That's actually, I agree 100%. That's really what it is. Yep, that's exactly what it is. Yep, that's unfortunate. Yeah. So, but like you said, maybe someday it'll change. We can only hope, and maybe. Yeah, someone.
I mean, we do have. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say maybe someone will, try to push that limit and advocate to get that stuff that changed, but. You got to find the right people out there that want to do that.
That's absolutely true, and unfortunately, I don't feel like there's enough people involved in that effort to really make a difference.
No, probably not. That's the sad part.
Yeah.
Yes. One day we can hope.
Yeah. Right.
Well, Scott, we are getting to the end of the podcast here. I know you've given us your website a couple times, but if you wouldn't mind maybe giving it out one more time so that if anybody, needs to get a hold of you to get any help or say they may want to donate to help out or anything like that. And if I remember right, you have some volunteer opportunities for people as well, so they could check that out on your website as well. So if you want to just give that out one more time so people can...
Sure. Absolutely. So I'll give you both websites because there's different information on both.
Okay.
First one would be info at joeyslegacy.org. And the other website would be info at stop vetmal, like stop veterinary malpractice.com. So info at stopvetmal.com. And that second website is where the person would fill out the victim form and attach records, and that's where the process actually begins. But we encourage people to call us to discuss the entire process, make sure they're clear on what needs to be done in order to go through the process without any road bumps on the road, so to speak.
Right.
And so the phone number is 803-520-7566. And we're available from 9 a.m. Eastern Time until 7 p.m. Closed on Saturday. Open 6 days.
Great. That's awesome. I'm surprised you guys are closed on Saturday. That one kind of shocked me.
we need a day to rest.
Oh, well, yeah, no, I meant most people take Sunday and not Saturday.
For one reason or another, we've determined that Saturday is less active than the other days. So phone doesn't ring as much on Saturdays as it does on the other 6 days.
Oh, that's
for one reason or another.
That's funny. You get a lot of calls on a Sunday. And you know what, though? It makes sense, too, because at least on Saturday, you still have businesses and stuff. You can go do your shopping and do what you need to do, things like that. So it makes sense.
Right. So it works out well.
Yeah. All right. Well, like I said, we're pretty much at the end of the podcast. I really appreciate you coming back on and doing this update for us. I'm so glad that you've added in the, grief support and that you have Nebulous Foundation helping out now, too. That sounds like a really great foundation and a very awesome, nice family to help you guys out with that. Sounds like you guys are doing some great work. You've got some really great partners and team members there with you between the vets and the law firms that you have. So all I can say is keep doing the good work, and hopefully more people that have these types of issues will hear about you and be able to come and get some help with the things that they need help with for this. So,
and appreciate your support over the years, Lord. Thank you very much.
Oh, yeah.
And I appreciate this opportunity as well.
Yeah, no problem. I mean, it's a really good good cause and good information to get out there for people. I mean, like I said at the beginning, there's not a lot of people don't think about this kind of stuff when it comes to losing their pet due to something the veterinarian did. They don't know about the help that's out there or the resources that are out there and what they can do, to
right. Yes.
recoup their loss or whatever, or try to, obviously, I guess not really getting anything done to the veterinarian at this point, but anyway, at least they can get something back. So,
we do our best.
Yeah, exactly, and I'm sure, and everybody that's been helped out by you appreciates it very much. So, just like I said, keep up the good work and helping out those people. So, and with
Thanks,
that,
Lori.
I am just going to go ahead and announce my next couple of upcoming podcasts. So you are welcome to stay on, but I know where you live, it's getting pretty late and people do have things to do. So if you want to jump off, you can go ahead and do that, and I'll announce the next podcast.
All right. We'll talk soon. Thank you, Lori.
All right. Thanks, Scott. Have a good night.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye. All right, everybody. So I hope you guys enjoyed the podcast and got some helpful information out there. Guys, really, if you know of anybody or you've had this happen to you where you think you might be a victim of veterinarian malpractice, please get a hold of Scott and his team and his partners there at Joey's Legacy, and get your information over to them and let them take a look at it and see if you have a case and if they can help you out. Like Scott said, that very beginning part, that first call and kind of look is free, and then from there you can decide if you want to go ahead and pursue it or not. So, help spread the word out about there, because veterinarian malpractice does happen. It's unfortunate that it happens, just like it's very unfortunate when it happens in the human world, and humans are a victim of doctors' malpractice as well. But again, it's a very small percentage. We are not out to try to bash any veterinarians or say all veterinarians are bad. That is not what's going on here. We just want to get more information out about Joey's Legacy and what they can do if you think that you do need some help with that. So, anyway, I hope you guys did get that out of this, and I hope you enjoyed listening. So, now, the next podcast that I have coming up, the next one is going to be on May 1st, and I am going to have Robert Eccles on with me, and he has written a book called For Our Friends the Animals, and he is going to be on to talk about that. Robert has kind of a Christian or more religious take on how we should be living with our friends the animals. And he talks a bit in his book about Dr. Albert Schweitzer and some of the takes and stuff that he had as well on things. So hopefully you guys can tune back in on May 1st and listen to me and Bob talk about his book and some of the beliefs and stuff that he has in it that he talks about, and some of the references he has to Dr. Schweitzer. So that's going to be a very interesting podcast, and I hope you guys will tune in to listen to that. It'll be interesting. And then after that, on May 15th, I am going to have Janet Kessler on with me, and she is a coyote aficionado. So we're going to be talking about coyotes on the podcast. We're going to learn all sorts of stuff about them. I thought this would be a great podcast to have because I happen to live in Arizona, and although coyotes are found in many, many different states, we have really a lot of them around in this area, and I thought it'd be great for people to get to know about coyotes more and understand them a little bit better, because I don't think a lot of people really understand coyotes and what they're about and how they live and what's going on with them. So Janet has graciously agreed to be on the podcast on May 15th so we can discuss all those things about coyotes. And this is the next one after that. I actually have 3 podcasts in May. Isn't that awesome? On May 29th, I am going to have John Reeder, I'm hoping I'm pronouncing that right, it's Reeder or Ryder, on with me. And I don't know if you guys have heard of John or not. He is called the Bubble Man. John makes pet-safe bubbles for dogs and stuff for pets. So he has different, I don't know if it's different scents, flavors. Anyway, different types of bubbles for dogs and pets and stuff to blow, because dogs like to chase bubbles just like kids do. So I've got John on with me on May 29th, and we are going to talk about his bubble making and get some more info about him and all the really cool things that he does when it comes to the bubbles for the dogs. So hopefully you guys can come back in May and listen to those podcasts. So don't forget, May 1st, Robert Eccles for Our Friends the Animals. May 15th, Janet Kessler talking about the coyotes, or coyotes, however you want to pronounce that. And then on the 29th, John Reeder talking about making bubbles for dogs. The Bubble Man, John Reeder. So, all right, guys. That's pretty much it for this evening. I appreciate you guys all joining me and Scott tonight. Again, I hope you found the podcast informative. And again, if you can get the word out about Joey's Legacy, that would be great. And I try to say this several times throughout the year. If you guys have any ideas for any podcast that you would like me to attempt to get a guest on for, or any certain animal you would like me to attempt to get a guest on for, please don't hesitate to contact me. You can email me at callingallcreatures19@gmail.com, or you can go on my Facebook page, which is also under Calling All Creatures, and you can message me or just leave a comment. Anything you want to do, just get a hold of me and let me know. I'd appreciate it. Or even if you guys want to just give me some feedback, I would appreciate that too. Knowing how the podcast is, I know that some of the these last ones haven't been the greatest because of the sound volume and stuff like that. I've been trying to work around and fix it. Hopefully tonight's podcast is a lot better and sounds much better. I'll be checking it out here in a little bit to make sure. But yeah, again, please shoot me something. Let me know if you enjoyed the podcast. Do you enjoy what I'm talking about? The people I'm having on, the guests I'm having on, the topics I'm talking about. Let me know how I'm doing. I'd appreciate it. Any feedback would be great. I don't really get any feedback ever, so I'd love it. And with that, I am going to say stay safe out there this weekend. Have a good time. Don't get into trouble. And I hope you all enjoy Easter. Have a happy Easter. Enjoy the celebration if you have it, and enjoy your family dinner. If you are a churchgoer, I hope you have a nice service. Just enjoy and have those kids go out and do some egg hunts or whatever events you guys have going on, because I know there's a lot of events this weekend. So yeah, definitely stay safe this weekend, because there are a lot of things going on and people are going to be out on the roads because of Easter. So all right, everybody, have a good night and come on back in a couple weeks for the next podcast. Bye now.